how to get rid of wild birds at schools. The first case of kids coming down with bird flu was actually in November. Every school system has some kind of a rodent control program, insect control program, but then what about birds? And some of them, they're just sitting there living with these bird issues, and it's like, well, now you've got kids getting sick from bird flu. This is totally preventable. Let's do something about it. Hey guys, welcome back. Bird Control Secrets. We're talking about something huge today, something really important, something near and dear to me, and that is how to get rid of birds at schools. How to get rid of wild birds at schools. Elementary schools in particular is what I want to talk about. This is a topic that's kind of near and dear to my heart in particular. Part of that is because, I've got 3 kids. Now, one of them is in college now, which is just absolutely crazy. Those of you guys who have known me since I came into the industry, which has been a long time now, know, my little daughter was super tiny when I first came in, and she's 18 now. It's crazy, but she's at university now. But I've also got a 10 and 12-year-old, and they are at the schools, K through 12 schools, and so it's like, man, we're not going to stop sending it. We're not going to freak out and stop sending kids to school or anything like that or whatever, right? But I'm like, hey, we should do something about this problem, schools. What's interesting is we've been hearing reports too here recently about the government actually giving some special grants and some other things to schools to actually help take care of bird issues because of bird flu. And in fact, actually, the CDC has started logging cases. In fact, the first case of kids coming down with bird flu was actually in November, and they've been tracking this. And there'll be an article there in the description, basically, to CDC. Fortunately, a child recovered and everything, but it's like, man, this shouldn't be a thing. This is totally preventable. And so I'm going to take some time to talk about, how you would actually go about getting rid of birds at a school. But first of all, I want to actually just point out a handful of things of because sometimes people don't realize how dangerous they are. We just had this happen when we were on the phone with a customer here recently, right? And we're just kind of talking through, and they're like, yeah, birds are gross or something, right? Right. And I don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that birds are gross. I don't. Birds are amazing, right? They just shouldn't be in super close proximity to humans, right? That's the whole point. It's just like having an elephant in your backyard, right? It's one thing to clean up dog droppings, but how many of you guys have cleaned up elephant droppings? If you have, I guess post it in the comments, and it'll be interesting. Maybe we'll send you something special if it's true. But you got to prove it. I'm like, prove it. You cleaned up elephant droppings. Give me a cool story, because there's got to be a cool story there. But what I'm saying is that, elephants are awesome to look at zoos. How many of you guys are coming in super close proximity to elephants? Nobody, almost, right? Trainers and stuff like that. Maybe if you're riding one at a circus or whatever it is. But outside of that, you're not coming in close proximity to elephants. Well, it's like birds, especially invasive species, in your backyard, and then carrying things like bird flu around and all that. You shouldn't be right next to them. Now, fast forward to a school system where it's we pay for all sorts of services. We've got trash pickup. Why is that? Because we know that trash in proximity to humans is a super bad plan. So we should probably pick up our trash because, we don't want all sorts of diseases. Every school system has some kind of a rodent control program and insect control program, and we've got these stadiums and stuff, and we've got lawn and turf control program. We got all sorts of stuff or whatever, right? But then what about birds? And some of them, they're just sitting there living with these bird issues, and it's like, well, now you've got kids getting sick from bird flu. This is totally preventable. Let's do something about it. And so here's what I want to do. I'm going to talk about some of the health hazards just real quick or whatever, right? So first of all, birds carry and transfer over 65 different diseases. You guys know that's twice as many diseases as rats and mice, especially if you're on this episode and you're following it. But there's other little things like slip and fall hazards that birds can create in walkways and on some of these surfaces. HVAC contamination. Did you know that those HVAC units can actually suck in some of the junk that's carried both on the feathers and through the birds dropping just in general, and blow and distribute that throughout the building, right? It's like, oh man, that sounds like a bad plan. I mean, those are just a couple of little tiny things. I'm gonna give you a couple of other interesting stats. One single pigeon roost, so that's one area where pigeons will sleep at, can release millions of fungal spores into the air, causing severe lung infections. Millions of fungal spores into the air. Just one pigeon roost. A single gram of bird droppings can contain over 100,000 salmonella bacteria. A single dropping, over 100,000 salmonella bacteria, and they can survive for weeks. I'm just giving you guys some reasons, right, to take care of some of this. There's a disease called parrot fever that can be deadly, and it's got a 15 to 20% fatality rate if untreated, right? Again, why am I saying this? I'm not saying this kind of stuff to like scare people, but I'm saying that like we know some of the stuff about like rats and roaches and stuff like that or whatever, right? And we're not going to allow them to hang out at these facilities or whatever, but then we'll just hang out and tolerate the birds or whatever, right? Until all of a sudden now CNN and all these guys have, you know, this stuff about bird flu. And it's like, oh, in fact, I had a customer tell us recently, like, oh yeah, like I'm concerned about bird flu, but bird flu wasn't a thing like until recent. It's like, no, like you're just now hearing about it, like on the news. It's been a thing, right? But I guess apparently, unless the news tells you to be concerned about it, I guess we're not going to be concerned about it, right? It's like we got to be more educated than that, right? Bird droppings are extremely acidic. A lot of you guys know this, but some of you guys who are just, you know, maybe you were like, how do I get rid of birds at my school, right? The pH level of bird droppings, because bird droppings are extremely acidic, can corrode metal, stone, concrete, and cause thousands of dollars, of course, of damage and facade. You guys know a single pigeon produces about 25 pounds of droppings annually. So think about now if you've got 50 pigeons and they're on the playground and now kids are running around and they're touching those swings or they're touching stuff or whatever, right? And they got their, and you guys know, no matter how much we tell our kids to wash their hands, don't wash their hands, right? Now they're putting that stuff everywhere and on their face and all sorts of stuff, right? Really, really bad plan. Did you also know that birds carry 50 different types of major parasites? 50 different types of major parasites. That's crazy. I mean, we're talking fleas and mites. In very rare cases, we've even seen bed bugs that have attached themselves to birds. We'll see ticks attach themselves to birds, right? Really bad plan, right? Here's what's interesting. Bird mites can multiply into tens of thousands in just a couple of weeks. And all of a sudden, they're in the classroom. They're in HVAC systems, and causing all sorts of issues, right? Here's an interesting stat. Did you know that in terms of slipperiness, bird droppings can be more acidic on flat walkways than ice? Isn't that crazy? It can. It can reduce traction by up to 80%, causing slip and fall hazards for kids. I mean, I could keep going on. I could talk about the fires that have happened at schools because of bird nesting in vents. I could talk about a bunch of other things. I'm not going to. I think you guys are getting the point or whatever, right? That this is like a big, big problem, right? And we should do something to take care of it. Let me tell you some touch points here really quickly. Again, I am going to show you how to do it, but here's some touch points. Playgrounds and recess areas are heavy interaction areas between kids and wild birds, right? So I would say if you're at a school system or if you're a pest control provider and you're providing services to a school, this is something you want to let them know about. Hey, pay attention. Are there birds in the playground or in the recess areas? Because again, my kids are putting their hands on things, they're touching stuff. And if I've got birds there and I've got kids around, we probably want to do something about that. Cafeteria, outdoor seating, and lunch areas. You guys know a lot of those outdoor seating areas, they'll have droppings on them. Lunch areas, those are attractive. Foods on the ground, all that kind of stuff. Foods on the tables. And so birds are going to be attracted to that. School entryways and bus stops, remembering that birds love like overhangs and awnings. They love rooftops and near doors where students kind of gather, during drop-offs and pickups and all that kind of stuff, right? So those are other areas to be looking for birds. Sports fields and bleachers. You guys have all seen that. You've got droppings on some of those bleachers and that kind of thing. This is where contact happens. This is what I'm talking about. Roofs, gutters, HVAC units. Remember I talked about for a second ago that HVAC units can actually pull contaminants in and pump them in throughout the building. Courtyards and gardens are another place, right? So if they've got trees, fountains, some of these areas, they can be great spots for nesting birds. So talking probably primarily more like sparrows, starlings, maybe blackbirds, and some birds like that nesting in those areas. The other part that's interesting is they can contaminate soil. So if you've got plants that you're growing outside and the birds are right there, or if there's areas where trees are planted on campus, but you've got a bunch of birds there, the droppings can fall down and mix in with the soil, and that soil can become contaminated. And now, kids are walking over and they're, building little things or making little hills for things to, roll around on or whatever, right? In that dirt. So that's something to keep in mind. Window ledges and classroom exteriors. So if the windows are left open and you've got, birds that are loafing on those ledges, guess what's getting blown in? Dust and all these things from droppings if those windows are open, right? That's just something to keep in mind. Dumpsters and waste areas. Again, if there's food, they're going to be attracted to it. And if they're not properly sealed, the birds are going to be attracted to it, right? Now, that may not be a problem for direct. I mean, hopefully your kids are nowhere near the dumpsters at the school there. So there might not be, direct interaction at the point of the dumpster, but what a dumpster could do is actually bring birds in and attract them as a food source, and then they're going to fly up and they're going to hang out and they're going to loaf and they're going to their droppings are going to get all over everywhere, and that's going to be disgusting, right? So it gave you guys some reasons why we should take care of them and gave you guys some common kind of touch points. But now let's actually take some time here really quickly and talk about how we would deal with a school that has a problem with birds. Okay, so what we're looking at right now is a bird's eye view of this elementary school. And of course, our team's done a good job of sort of hiding names and doing all that kind of stuff. We try to do that just to not put anybody on the spot as we go through and we do these things. We're definitely not saying that any of these locations are locations that we are actively treating or something like that. This is just me pulling it up and actually going through and showing you guys here real quick. So we picked out at random an elementary school, and I'm giving you guys a bird's eye view on this so that you guys can see a little bit of what a bird sees, right? It's like I've got dumpsters right over here, over to the south on this facility. I've got all these HVAC units that have a lot of condensation drip and stuff like that, right? If I'm dealing with sparrows, I've got this whole neighborhood over here that's filled with trees. I've got trees here. I've got trees all over the place, right? And so that's great nesting, so I can roost overnight and sleep. But also, what that is it's like, great, I might have quick access to food because I fly from these dumpsters right over here over to the dumpsters over here over to my trees. I'm going back and forth, and everything is great. Not to mention, look at all this drainage right here. So I've got water flowing right across. It looks like 90th Street. Right underneath that bridge, right? So I've got access there all the time. And let me go, I'm going to get in a little bit closer. I'm going to go all the way down to street view real quick. We're just going to drop down in here. And you can actually take a look and you can see, look at this. It's like I've got now dumpsters, and surprise, surprise, the dumpsters are open right there, right? So now I've got just this regular food source just there. And then look, I'm going to zoom in here. You can see, look, I've got these HVAC units, right? Right in the same area where those birds are. And then let's also take a look. Here's some entry points and some things here. And look at this. I've got entry points for the doors. But then also on top of that, look, I've got perfect loafing ledges right there for the birds to just hang out, loaf droppings that fall right down here. Look, you've got a trash can right here, so that's food. But droppings are falling right down here, whatever, maybe getting on students as they're walking in, and all sorts of things, right? So all those problems I was describing earlier could easily exist at a school like this, right? So let's talk about treatment. Let's say that right now that I am dealing with, let's say, sparrows at a location like this, house sparrows. I've got them in, maybe they're getting over in this playground area. I've got them in the trees over here. They're getting through this breezeway to the north. Maybe I've even got some birds that are flying in through doors, which we always tell people, if you've got birds that are flying in to a location, they're flying into the location because there's a bigger infestation on the outside of the building. There might be a small internal infestation, but there's a really big one on the outside of the building. And so we recommend working from the outside in if you're going to get rid of birds at a school like this, right? So here's all I'm going to do. This is pretty easy, and you guys can watch our video on like what Avitrol is or how it works or anything like that. I'm not going to get into all that, but essentially the main thing is I've got to change the way the birds are communicating. I got to do that with the alphas, and I've got to get them to eat some biotech bait to do that. So what I'm going to do, let's say we've got 50 sparrows. I need about 5 trays. How do I know that? 5 baiting trays, because I'm going to break it up to about 10 birds a tray, right? So 50 sparrows, 5 trays. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask and figure out where are the birds hanging out most. So remember I said right over here in this playground area we had some bird activity, right? Maybe in the dumpsters to the south we've got bird activity. I'm going to concentrate my trays as close to the areas of activity as I possibly can, right? So I'm going to have trays that maybe go right up on this rooftop here to the south. And of course I'm going to have roof access because I've got HVAC units up on top of there. That's pretty easy. Usually that's going to be through the interior of the building, or maybe an exterior door that leads to stairs that comes out, comes out of some type of an opening there on the roof. But I've got my dumpsters that are right there. And so I know birds are hanging out here. I'm going to drop maybe 2 trays right here. I might do one right here and then one just a little bit to the west. With Avitrol, you typically get about a 1/4 mile of repelling. And so what I need is at least flyover activity at minimum for those birds. And so these birds, let's say they're flying, you've got trees, they're flying from this tree to over here, flying from this tree over here to this kind of this area with your park stuff or whatever. Maybe they're flying all the way across the way. You've got trees here. Maybe they're flying all the way across over here from the neighborhood or whatever. But I just see flyover activity. And as long as I've got some flyover activity, then I know, hey, I can put these trays in the path of the flight of the birds there, right? So I'm going to put a tray here or maybe 2 trays here. I might put one right here as well. So it could be 3 right here or 1 here and 1 here. And then I'm going to go over to the west, kind of northwest, kind of maybe near where these are, where the other area of heavy activity is. And I'm going to put, a couple trays here, probably right there on the roof line. Now, here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to put trays right on the edge of the roof or anything like that. I'm actually going to push them back away from the edges. Usually I like to stay about 10 feet or so away from the edges is where that's going to go. And then I'm going to put one maybe scouting tray out, because let's say if I've got activity over here to the west, I've got activity to the south, but I've got some trees and things over here. These could be inside the flight path. I actually am probably going to put at least 1 tray right over there. Now, I remember I did say break it up to 10 birds a tray. You can also use scouting trays, like if you think that you could get activity, right? So I might actually put, a baiting tray, like a couple of baiting trays here, which might bring my tray count up to 6 total, or maybe 3 over here, or whatever, right? But if I think there could be the signs of activity, I put it here. Now, one of the things you could also do is get up on this roof or look on the ledges and actually look for birds that are hanging out there, or look on the roof and see if you see signs of droppings, and then concentrate your trays kind of in areas where the droppings are. What I want to do is I actually want to push these birds all the way out of this location. So I want to move them. I don't want to just shuffle them from right over here to right over here. And that's the problem a lot of times with, like, let's say spike, right? Like, let's say I put some bird spike on these ledges. Maybe I was concerned about that overhang or whatever, where students are walking in or whatever. Maybe I try and put spike or something there, or shock track or whatever. The problem is that now all I'm doing is I'm just shuffling this problem around, right? I can't put net on the trees and spike the playground and blah, blah, like I can't do that, right? I can't cover every area, but there are kids possibly running around everywhere. There's exposure happening everywhere. I need to create a bird-free zone. And like I said, typically I'm going to get a quarter mile of repelling if I do that with Avitrol. So what I'm going to do is I'm kind of triangulating my trays almost. It's like I'm getting trays right in this area. I'm getting trays right in this area. I'm getting trays right in this area. Yes, that's a really wonky triangle for you geometry students. But I'm just saying now when I deploy my live bait, like I've actually got complete control over a whole lot of facility, right? And I'm taking care of a lot of things, right? Is all I'm doing. So yeah, I'm just going to pre-bait here until I get enough feeding, and then from there, until half my feed is gone. Then from there, I'm going to add in some Avitrol Biotech bait. I'm going to use that Easy Blend product there, and then from there, we're going to get those alphas talking. They're going to talk to each other, and they're going to scare the rest of the birds away, and they're going to fly off and not come back. And that's really how that's going to work. That's how I'm going to get rid of birds at a school. Now, some of you guys, if you're at a school system, you might have questions like, hey, like, is it safe to actually do this, like, around the kids? Look, we are doing this at a rooftop location. They're actually inside of specialized baiting trays. And so, no, there's not going to be any risk to kids coming in contact. I mean, unless you let your kids up on the roof of the school, which we can't really do anything about that. I don't recommend that. That sounds really dumb, half joking, but just don't let your kids up on the roof when this happens. I hope you don't do that anyway, right? But yeah. And then from there, really honestly, our goal is we want those alphas to communicate to the rest of the birds and get them to leave and not come back. And then we want those alphas, after they're done responding to the biotech bait, we want them to fully recover and fly off without side effects, and just live out the rest of their happy bird life just somewhere else, not causing an issue at the school for you or for your students. So again, it's pretty well 3 easy steps. It's like, I'm going to pre-bait first to kind of get them trusting a food source. We've got SPP-free or sword product pest-free pre-bait, which is just kind of like grain or seed type stuff that you would actually feed birds to get them trusting a food source. So that's step 1. Step 2, I'm actually going to feed them some Easy Blend after I've got good feeding. And then honestly, step 3 is we recommend having a monitoring or protection program set up in place, just like you do for your, for rats or mice or for insects or something like that. And basically a program like that looks like essentially we've got trays that are set up there. They get checked at least once a month for signs of activity, because bird infestations don't start big. They start small and grow with time. So after we got rid of an initial problem, then from there, we would just have some bait out that gets checked. And if 1 or 2 birds show up, we show back up and take care of the problem. There's not extra charges generally for that. That's all in one thing. When you move into the protection program. So no matter how many visits it requires, it's usually one flat price per month, and you're making sure that the location stays bird free. But it's like, man, for the peace of mind of not having exposure to bird flu and all that kind of stuff, like how much is it worth to you, right? I would want the school to spend whatever it took to make sure that my kids were protected, right? And so I would imagine those of you guys who are parents would feel exactly the same way. And so those of you guys who are on the facility side or operations side at schools, that's something to be thinking about. Is it's like, man, you know what? We should have a protection program in place after we get rid of our bird problem. Now, what if you don't have a bird problem? Here's what's great. A lot of companies are offering, and this is something you can comment at us or whatever, slide into the DMs or whatever, right? You could direct message us, but and we could help with something like this. But we can help you get a protection program set up too, even if you don't have a problem right now, but you want to make sure you don't get a problem. It's the same concept. Basically, we're going to have some trays out there where you check those regularly, make sure that you never have a bird problem, and so this never becomes a risk for you. So that's really the main thing, those 3 steps. It's like, again, pre-bait, active bait, monitoring program. That's how you make sure that you don't either ever get a bird problem, or if you have a bird problem, you get rid of it. Honestly, as a general rule, that's how you get rid of bird problems at your school. Pretty straightforward, or how you get rid of birds at school. Again, if you guys liked what you saw, please take some time to subscribe, take some time, leave some comments below, invite somebody to subscribe too, or whatever. You know, you could be at a school and you want to share it with other schools. Do that. If you're a pest control guy, man, share this with other guys that you know. There's a lot of opportunity out there for you guys on the service provider side. And there's a lot of opportunity for you guys on the school facility side to make sure that your students stay protected from a threat that honestly a lot of people didn't know were a threat until all of a sudden it started making headline news. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on the next episode.